company that is actually leveraging data that they have, we see they are yielding 3 times more results, business outcomes actually, than companies that are not leveraging their data. So it needs to be front and center of every business decision and discussion, actually.
You claim to be the most customer-centric company. How does it work in practice?
We want to work backwards from customer problems. And that means we really try to understand what is the business problem a customer has to solve, right? And we mean it.
What's your role in helping brands and companies in these disruptive times?
In the last year, we've announced 3,400 features and services for customers. All those releases just underline on how we constantly innovate and how customers can leverage this to then innovate with the technology that we are providing.
Welcome to the EGN Podcast, powered by the e-commerce Berlin Expo. I'm your host, Effe van Teenen. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Stefan Suppra from Amazon Web Services to our show. Stefan and I will be discussing how the retail landscape is evolving as we approach 2025, what type of challenges businesses are facing, and how cloud solutions are transforming data management, security, and compliance. In this episode, we will cover real-world examples from some of the biggest brands and take a look at which innovations are shaping the future of both online and offline retail. If you're curious about where the industry is headed and how the right cloud strategy can give your business a competitive edge, stick around. This episode is for you. Stefan, welcome to the podcast. Very nice to have you here. And it's been a long time coming because we were talking about this episode months and months ago, and finally you're here. Super nice to have you. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm happy and excited to be here. Thanks for hosting me and being a guest on your podcast. I'm Stefan. I'm almost 40 years old. I'm working with Amazon Web Services, so AWS, which could be a well-known brand to some people here. Still, I'd like to use the day today to introduce a little further. So I'm Stefan. 20 years of experience in the industry, mostly in IT. So I started my career actually almost 20 years ago as a software engineer back in the days at Volkswagen Financial Services, actually. And I've stuck with that company for quite some time, 14 years. And as you know, in a big traditional enterprise, if you want to make a career as a subject matter expert, it's not that easy. You need to go the management path. And that's what I took as well. So I went the management path at the company, but I was always fascinated about using technology and applying it to solve business needs. And I was one who wanted to deliver things, right? To get things done, get them into production. And I saw the company slowing down a little on this, like less frequent releases, pushing on the brake a little to reduce risk, basically. That was the view on this. But I thought there's an opposite trend, actually. Faster releases, going to production more frequently, testing things out in production. And I like that. I found that very appealing. But it was not possible with what we had in the company. So I leaned towards cloud computing. I found that pretty exciting back in the days already, using technology to solve those business challenges more quickly. So I was a big advocate for this. Long story short, I introduced cloud computing at VW Financial Services. And then at some point I thought, nice, I've applied this technology. I maybe want to work at a company and also help other businesses. So I applied at AWS, and then I started there as a solutions architect. So
didn't you also work at Microsoft at some point?
Well, yeah, that was a short gig in between. But first I started at AWS.
I stalked you very much.
Thank you very much. It's quite visible on my LinkedIn profile what I did. But no, I started at AWS first. And as the company was growing so quickly and fast, I immediately jumped into a management role again, growing the team there. And then I had that short gig, as you said, at Microsoft, a similar role. The role I didn't mention, so I was working as a solutions architect, which is actually a portfolio of roles. So we are dealing with customers and their way into the cloud, but if they are in the cloud, we help them expand their footprint, optimize, just get the best out of their current setup that they have in the cloud, actually. And we're not just doing that, we also speak publicly. We go to events like the e-commerce Berlin Expo, for example, next year, which is pretty cool. I'm excited for that. And
you guys are exhibiting.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can see us there. And we just want to spread the word about what great things customers are achieving with our technology.
Totally. And I'm super excited to hear from you because in the podcast we had many topics already. We are over 45 episodes. We haven't truly covered the cloud computing side of things. I mean, we had companies that focus on headless commerce and the technical background. We had CNA in the podcast. They told us about how they migrated to be flexible in the future. But like hearing from you, because you help so many businesses, and AWS is truly deeply rooted in retail. Right. So you have a background, obviously, as the main engine empowering like one of the biggest. I mean, AWS is huge. And I want this to be quite clear today and get to know from you. And one thing that while looking through the information, one thing that I found very interesting is that you claim to be the most customer-centric company. How does it work in practice?
Well, yeah, because we are actually, and there are so many things to uncover about this. So you already said we're deeply rooted in retail, and I think that's the foundation of it, right? So we come from Amazon. It's in the name, Amazon Web Services. So Amazon.com as probably one of the most innovative retailers that everyone sees in the world. I myself am a customer, and I'm always amazed on the constant features they deliver, the speed of delivery that you get, sometimes same day in delivery, which is impressive how that works, right? So,
Truly.
And a lot of that innovation is only possible because of the underlying technology, of course. And, you know, back in the days, like in the 90s, when you ordered something online, when we were kids, right? You didn't have high expectations or hopes. You ordered something and then at some point it arrived.
Yeah.
But nowadays, consumers expect that to be much quicker. They expect, as said, same day delivery. That growing demand is everywhere. You see so many orders coming in. That's what's happening on the Amazon side of things. And we also see that on the AWS side of the business. We see growing customer demand from the end customers. That is, of course, then also reflecting to our customers that we are dealing with. So me and my team, we're working with retail customers in Germany. So you'll see we're especially proud of big brands that we've helped, establishing their presence and growing their business. Like, you know, big brands like Delivery Hero, Adidas, of course, the Otto Group, they're very much e-commerce focused now, but also looking at the more traditional brick and mortar, like OBI, the do-it-yourself.
Omni-channel.
Yes, all of those things. And we're super proud that we've helped those businesses. And that all comes with a retail expertise. We're using a tagline that is called Born in Retail, Built for Retailers.
Wow.
This is what AWS is about. But at the same time, Amazon and AWS are strictly decoupled businesses. So we're not having too many commonalities. And especially if it comes to data and insights, this is strictly separated. So Amazon does not have any insight on what a customer is doing on AWS. And that's a thing that is underlined by a lot of security, compliance, certifications, all the things we put into place to show that customers can totally rely on what we do with AWS. And you will see that a lot of the customer references that we have, they're also publicly visible on our website from German retailers, just underline that on how they trust this.
I'm really curious to get to the topic of compliance and also this decoupling from Amazon.com is super interesting because, I mean, you guys even have Otto Group as a customer. So that you could theoretically think that these two marketplaces are in a competition between each other, Amazon and Otto, but they still trust you with a technological infrastructure, which obviously shows that it's a trust that you have established in the market. But I want to get started with having you as such a seasoned expert in front of me. I want to ask you, what are the most pressing topics that you see right now, biggest challenges that you see in German retail and e-commerce?
So I'd like to actually give that question back to you because I mean, you've got that podcast here. You've got
Yeah.
so many interesting people on the podcast that are telling you what their challenges are and how they solved it, or
Yeah.
maybe not even solved it yet, but facing it and trying to find a solution for this. So, what is it that you experience are the most pressing topics right now?
Thank you for the question. I really like that. I think it's one of the rare times that I get asked the question, which I really like.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you said, we have many experts that talk about. I mean, they have like a very focused view of their perspective. But I sit here and interview so many different people coming from different backgrounds. And one thing that I've noticed is that customer behavior. This might sound like a cliche, but it's just changing so rapidly. We have now in German e-commerce a rising influence of players that are arising from Asia, Temu, Shein, and sorts. But not only those, but there are many others that just have more like not just search-driven commerce, but also discovery-driven commerce. So customers are scrolling on TikTok. They're just getting used to different type of exposure to brands, and that has a certain impact. I think that's coming, and that is undeniable. And also you see the readiness of brands to invest in technological infrastructure is unfortunately still pretty low, but they need to. Actually, we will touch upon that. They need to invest in order to be able to cater to changing consumer demand. This is my perspective. What do you think?
Absolutely +1 to what you said. The latter is how can you invest, right? So what are the resources that you actually have, and
Yeah.
that's one of the most pressing topics that we see actually is cost optimization. So
Yeah.
if someone is already using AWS, they also want to look at, am I using that in the most optimal way?
Yeah.
And with that, it frees new resources to invest that
Yeah.
into concrete use cases. And looking into those use cases, it covers what you just said, like personalization,
Yeah.
hyper personalization,
Yeah,
even
exactly.
tailoring it exactly to what someone is thinking about, maybe even only, and then getting experience. You know how sometimes it's spooky if
Yeah.
you just thought about something and then it appears.
You're like, they're listening.
Yeah. So but this is exactly what helps then, well, for a retailer to market
Yeah.
whatever they have, right? And next to this, it's of course the consumer side, but also the like the side of purchasing, supply chain.
Yeah.
You want to have resilience there. You want to be reliable because the demand is so high on the one side. You cannot depend on suppliers that are not able to deliver, right? You need to
Totally.
have full control of that, and
Yeah.
you don't want to leave anything to randomness there.
Yeah.
And that's those are basically the things that we're seeing now.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it's the best way to make these challenges obvious, I think, is to focus on real life examples, right? So I know that you brought a lot of examples with you, hopefully, because you looking through your webpage, also just like publicly available information, you're helping so many brands. And I'm curious how you're helping them, how you're helping brands powered by AWS to gain a competitive edge, you know?
So it you just said, like, it may sound like a cliche, but it's something that we do and that we embraced. Also coming from the Amazon side of things, is we want to work backwards from
Yeah.
customer problems, and that means we really try to understand what is the business problem a customer has to solve,
Yeah.
right? And we mean it. It's not that we come and say, "Hey, we've got a great data warehouse. It's the
Yeah.
best price performance you can get. Take it," right? It's rather that, okay, you want to get to data insights more quickly. What's the pain that you're currently having? How much time are you losing? What is the money you're losing potentially? And how can we mitigate this? And what would be the best KPIs to set up, the best metrics to set up for this, so that we can, in the end, also see how effective have you been in the implementation of something. And this is how we usually go about projects. We want to understand how customers are tackling business problems and how we can help them with that. And that sometimes means even challenging the assumptions underneath, right?
Yeah.
So they might tell you, hey, I want to solve this problem, but then you peel the onion and you find out it's actually not that problem. It's a different angle that you want to take. And we are sometimes very bold in challenging this. And you will see that there was, I think in 2016, Jeff Bezos wrote in a shareholder letter, customers are always beautifully, wonderfully dissatisfied, even when they report being happy and business looks good. And even if they say it's all good, I don't need to do anything, you still need to find out what's behind this. And that's what we do. So we've got a lot of customer examples in Germany. I already mentioned some of the customers that we've been working with. HelloFresh, for example, having moved from a legacy database actually into a modern data lake infrastructure. Otto.
I'm a proud HelloFresh customer.
That's nice. Okay, they will be happy to hear that, I believe. Yeah, and then we've got.
They were at the expo last time. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. We've got Otto, a very renowned brand in Germany. Switching to a very scalable infrastructure that is powered by AWS underneath. And then I've got also some very specific customer examples that I wanted to bring to you here. And they're coming more from the traditional, if you would say it, background, which is powered by SAP. And that one thing I would like to share is OBI. So I already mentioned them as the one of the top two do-it-yourself shops actually that you can have. And they had their storefront e-commerce business running on SAP Hybris. Yeah. And the idea is, you know how it is, right? Do you have a house, by the way? Do you have one, or
we have
property?
An apartment? Okay. We're renting actually.
Okay, so I now recently bought a house, right? And I know that probably looking at the springtime, I will need to take care of the garden a lot. And this is actually where Germany wakes up, right? After hibernation, after the winter time, people want to go into their garden and go to the DIY shops. And this is where OBI is facing peak time. Right.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's the springtime. They face almost double the website visitors that they had before. And what you need to do in a traditional environment is you need to provision capacity for such times, right? So you need to have the compute resources and everything ready. And they did that by running SAP Hybris together with Avarta Systems in 2 data centers on premises. But that's like over provisioning. You don't want to do that. And what they did was analyzing that using our migration acceleration program. They looked into what can be optimized, ran a POC for 6 months, and then another 2 months moving their whole infrastructure to AWS. And it greatly helped them fulfill that they now have a scalable architecture, infrastructure, plus infrastructure as code in place to variably provision environments in this, which is cool.
I think I want to go back to what you said earlier. It's like, and when consumers say they're happy with something, and I learned also doing several years of marketing, what the consumer says and what they do are 2 separate things, right? So really important to dig into the data. And like when you have peaks in your, for some businesses, it's Black Friday. So for some businesses, it's seasonality, right? So in e-commerce, but then you have to be ready. Right? When the challenge comes, you have to be ready, because in the moment when you miss the opportunity, it's gone.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, seasonality is the one thing that's super obvious if you speak about e-commerce, right? You need to be ready for those peaks. But at the same time, it's also the off-season time where you need to be ready to have all those data insights, where the growing volume of data that you have is just incredibly growing. And another story around this is Adidas, that have actually revamped their ERP experience, so enterprise resource planning. And you know how Adidas started basically as a wholesaler, and now they've moved over the years into retail, e-commerce, franchising. So a whole complex chain that they're dealing with, right? And a lot of suppliers are in the process. So revamping that whole chain from purchasing through supply chain, finance, sales is a beast, right?
And with so many SKUs also.
Absolutely. And what they did was also looking into how can they continually transform themselves. They even had a project internally called Transform that they used for this. And plus, Adidas is a brand that says we want to be at the cutting edge of technology. So they are basically continuously undergoing a transformation, right? They need to reinvent themselves. They need to bring the software to a state that is up to date. And I really need to look at my sheet here because I have a few numbers that I want to read to you that I find
we love numbers.
Super impressive.
Yeah.
So in May 2023, they had almost 450 virtual CPUs, 9 terabyte of memory. So those who are not very much into computers don't really know what's behind this, I suppose, but it's impressive, I can tell you. And more than 9.4 billion financial transactions have been going over that platform. Wow. And the cool side effect we had with that is that they want to use the cloud to be more resilient, right? And they set up an SLA for whenever things fail all the time.
Service level agreement.
Exactly, service level agreement, that the mean time to recovery should be quite low. Yeah. They ended up with a mean time to recovery for the whole system of 44 minutes, which is quite impressive for such a big scale. But it's even more impressive as it's 59% below what they initially targeted for. Yeah. This is pretty cool.
It's super interesting, and I love the fact that we haven't touched upon these topics before in the podcast. So, and that also brings me. I mean, you guys are doing a whole lot in data management, security, compliance, GDPR regulations, which for many of us mere mortals, it's kind of like a black box, you know. So it's too complicated. But for the people that work with this stuff on a daily basis, it can be a massive headache, right? It's also a lot of sophisticated, a lot of complexity. And you make it quite easy for brands. That's at least my.
We try to contribute at least. Yeah.
You try to contribute, and one thing is like when talking about compliance, I've read that Amazon compliance program can help brands also in terms of getting the certifications, and like they help frameworks that are designed. I wanted to ask you if you could elaborate a little bit and tell us what it all entails.
Happy to. So that's a big topic definitely to tackle. And one of the main things that I want to give here is that whenever you're doing something on AWS, we have a term that we coined that's basically the shared responsibility model. Yeah. So it cannot all be on AWS to provide for compliance and to ensure it's something we cannot do, that everything you do is compliant. It's always up to the customer that is using AWS to define their compliance posture. Yeah. What are the needs? What are the risks associated to it? I mean, I come from the financial services background. I can tell you this is one of the main things you're doing all day, right? Identifying what are the risks and how can you mitigate those, and what are the measures you need to put in place. And I think we have a very comprehensive set of measures in place there. So we've got 143 certifications in place, ranging from the German C5 over PCI DSS. For healthcare, we've got HIPAA, and we provide comprehensive set of governance tools also to ensure that, so that the customer for themselves can ensure that they have the proper view on what data is being used and how it's being used. And underneath that, the infrastructure that we offer is also built to satisfy all those compliance needs.
Yeah. How about, I know for a fact that like some public institutions, as many businesses and organizations move to the cloud, there are issues around digital sovereignty as well, you know, like where your cloud instances, where your servers are based. I know for a fact that you guys have been heavily investing in German local data centers. As a matter of fact, it probably, I think it was around 8 billion euros.
Not just that, it's even more than that,
It's I'm curious. I mean, again, let's try to simplify it as much as possible for the audience. But like, how do you help companies with digital sovereignty?
Good that you're bringing that term up. So, may I ask you, what is digital sovereignty to you?
Yeah, not being an expert in this topic. Again, I love the fact that you're asking me questions for a change. For me, digital sovereignty, I think there's like, either you have certain regulations in place or that you have to comply with. So your data centers have to be located in a certain geography. That could be Germany, for example, or within the EU. That is one thing, like geographical placement and also abiding with local laws and regulations. This is pretty much what I understand under this term.
That's definitely
probably completely wrong.
No, absolutely not. It's definitely part of it, right?
Yeah.
We've actually issued a digital sovereignty pledge in 2022, where we said we give customers, and we've always done that, the full flexibility to decide where the data resides, where it's getting moved, who has access to it, and how that data is being accessed. We've got a full set of controls that enables the customers to manage this, and they can decide what to do with that data. And this is why I always say, and we always say, AWS is sovereign by design. So the whole infrastructure that we have built and the region design that we've chosen is definitely underlining this. Now, as you mentioned our investment, what we are building is the European Sovereign Cloud. This is particularly exciting because it gives another option to customers, right? They can see more what are our needs and how can this specific European Sovereign Cloud help satisfy those.
I also want to ask you about, many companies have like a crystal ball for the future. They want to make some guesses, wild guesses, what could happen in the future. But I think you are in a position to make very concrete prognosis, projections in terms of what you see coming based on the trends that you observe in offline and online retail. Can you share a couple of insights, what you see in online or offline, or maybe even both?
Yeah. So there's one customer story that I found particularly interesting. It's about Idealo, the price comparison portal. You probably know. And they have done something very amazing, actually, and it ties back to the personalization topic that I mentioned before. So they wanted to achieve a much better click-through rate, much better conversion through their email campaigns, and therefore they have got their machine learning engineering team. And they've been an early adopter of AWS technologies all the time. But they were also facing an aging data center and not being able to leverage the latest technologies. So what they did was they wanted to analyze on how you could use machine learning models to give better personalization recommendations. So they sat down for 3 months, developed a model, and they already found, wow, okay, we get very impressive results with that. I'll get to the numbers in a second. And then they sat down for another time to develop a very sophisticated model powering their recommendation engine. In the end, they came up with 111% growth in the click-through rate and 154% growth in conversion through their email campaigns, which is super impressive, I would say. Plus, they now have a mean time to production for their machine learning models that they cut in half. So they're able to innovate even faster with what they developed. And this is pretty cool, right? So I don't, as you say, have a crystal ball on what's going on in the future, but we see that all the machine learning topics, generative AI, is helping customers greatly. Just 2 years ago, it was almost 2 years ago, I think, that the discussion about generative AI has started. And now it's front and center of every customer discussion that we have.
Absolutely.
It's just amazing to see how it helps personalize, how it helps ease things, not just for the direct customer interaction, but sometimes also in the back office, basically. So we've got another customer that is Home Shopping Europe. They're currently evaluating on how their customer service can actually benefit from generative AI and how the agents in the back office can benefit from it, but also, of course, the customers on having more tailored customer experiences, dialogues, and so on.
And I'm quite curious about AWS's role in those disruptions that are coming. It's going back to what you said about generative AI 2 years ago in November 2022, it was, I believe, it got launched, and I spent my Christmas time pretty much playing with this thing. And then it was just a couple of months until we were all talking about embedded AI, AI instances in the customer journeys. It's just becoming common practice everywhere. You have the Microsoft Copilot, which penetrated through everyday lives, and then the way we search for things is changing. But on the other hand, like on the merchant side, it just leads to immense efficiencies for them. What's your role in helping brands and companies within these disruptive times?
So it's quite what I mentioned before. It's on the one side, of course, providing all the capabilities and services that you need, but at the same time also providing the insight, the expertise, the questioning also on how to do this, right? We are seeing how customers are solving those things. And if you look at, for example, my team, we're solutions architects. We're working with customers. We are speaking about this with customers on stage. And we also try to share the knowledge between each other so that when someone faces a similar problem, we can help that person out with their customer again. So we try to sort of disseminate the knowledge within the team, and then also using that to scale it out to customers, so that we're not revealing any internal knowledge or something like this, right? But it's like an approach to that has worked well. You can call it a best practice. We want to give that also to other customers. And this is one of the roles that we are playing, like being the consulting partner actually in that role, next to all the technology we provide. But as I already mentioned, and you also mentioned some specific technologies that are being used, we aim to provide this as well, right? We want to give the customer the flexibility and the choice to pick whatever they need. So for example, one of our services is Amazon Bedrock that has been introduced. And this allows customers to choose from foundational models they can use for their generative AI applications, from a breadth of models from different vendors. And we offer that through a comprehensive set of APIs that they can just put into their use cases. And tying that back to your question about the crystal ball of the future, you can use that for personalization, conversational shopping even, right? So you've got a very personalized experience. We spoke about this at a retail conference this year. And but also at the same time, we're seeing a completely different set of things happening in the stores. Like if you look at offline stores, augmented reality, smart stores, all those topics can be powered by the technology that we are providing. And this is what we want to do, what we want to consult on. And we innovate, and we try to innovate on behalf of our customers for this. I just want to mention something that is also showing very immensely actually how we innovate. So in the year 2011, we've announced and released 80 services and features, which is, it sounds like a low number, right? But 2011 was still the early days of cloud business. In the last year, we've announced 3,400 features and services for customers. So that's a lot of announcements. You need to look on our blog to see what all of this is. But it's something that just underlines.
That's one hell of a comprehensive blog article.
Absolutely. It's not just one. We write a lot, right? And all those releases just underline on how we constantly innovate and how customers can leverage this to then innovate with the technology that we are providing.
Incredible. It's like 3,500 features you cannot miss. But I really like it.
It might be a little more specific for their specific use cases.
It's so comprehensive. I'm humbled by all the insights that you've been providing, especially how you are in the background of so many brands that we interact with on a daily basis. And maybe you can also say a couple of words about why it's a good time to move to the cloud for many e-commerce businesses from your perspective.
So if they haven't done already, now is the time actually, as you say, to reach out. So I think we've got unprecedented global scale with how we operate. So we are operating in a set of 34 regions right now, across more than 100 availability zones. Quite technical terms, but it definitely defines on how resilient we are building our infrastructure. That's one thing. So if you want to reach global scale and resilient infrastructure, and you need that for your operations, this is one place to go. We see that the demand for using generative AI, using machine learning is growing, and we provide the broadest and the best portfolio actually to do this. And the same goes for data analytics and insights. So a company that is actually leveraging data that they have, we see they are yielding 3 times more results, business outcomes actually, than companies that are not leveraging that data. So it needs to be front and center of every business decision and discussion, actually.
Yeah.
And then, as I mentioned, our continuous investment into new features is just underlining on how we are committed to continuously evolve our platform and what we are offering. And plus, then the security and compliance regulations that we satisfy with our set of services and the certifications that we've earned for that, the 143, are simply just underlining that on how you can build a secure, compliant application or whatever need you have on top of AWS. And those are evergreens, right? But I think the innovation part that we're bringing to it is the most compelling one right now, on how quickly we move, how quickly we announce new features and move in that business.
Adopting cloud solutions is also a lot of internal change for many companies, right? So they have to restructure their teams and they have to educate themselves internally. How do you help companies in this restructuring process?
It's been much easier when I started. So that was 10 years ago in the cloud business. It was a very easy, like
straightforward.
A small set of services, some new things introduced that were like, oh, okay, you could easily understand what the new features are that have been launched. To get to understand this and stay up to date is quite challenging, right? But I also see a change in approach to this. So some people are specializing more in the domains. So you often don't see a cloud generalist knowing all the more than 200 services we are offering. It's almost impossible to do that, even for the people working at our company cannot have that knowledge. But what we offer is that more than 150 courses actually for learners that are interested in this. And only this week I had a call with a student from Hochschule Hannover, which was super interesting for me because I was doing a debugging session with them. So we were looking at how they were solving a problem, and I saw them how they were approaching the problem. So if you ask me, if I have a problem, I would always go to Google or any search engine and ask, I've got this problem. What they did was they used a chat model, a Gen AI model, basically. And they entered their question into this. And with what they got as a result, even some code that they could use, they were just entering that into the system, into the console. And it's a whole different approach right now. So you can just use large language models, generative AI, to formulate your questions, get to a result much quicker.
Skipping so many steps along the way.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
And it's going more accurate, way more accurate. So this is definitely a different approach now. So we also need to embrace this in the learner way. But at the same time, we always say customers are not on their own whenever they want to apply AWS. So we've got an ecosystem of partners and also our own professional services team that can support with that. So we've got, I think the latest number was more than 140,000 partners. Partners really that can help our customers. We've got special industry competencies. We've got certifications that we ensure that a customer, that a partner actually brings the expertise and the knowledge of implementing solutions based on AWS.
140,000 partners.
Yes, that's a quite impressive number. 130,000. Sorry, that's
wow.
in 200 countries.
Still very impressive.
And if something is missing, then we still have our own professional services team, as said, that can help with that.
And I want to go back to, before we wrap things up, I want to go back to one thing that you said. You at the beginning, we said you're one of the most customer-centric corporations on earth. And I think it shows in the example that you provided that you were sitting with some teams from Hanover, with someone who's trying to set things up as a high-level manager from Amazon Web Services. It just shows the focus that you are genuinely interested in helping and making everyone successful in the cloud. Thank you so much for the insights that you've provided. I myself have learned a lot, but I feel like at the same time, this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's very, very, very comprehensive. I would like to encourage anyone who has a question on cloud computing and intricacies of working in the cloud as an e-commerce brand to reach out to you, what's the best way for us to reach out to you, Stefan?
So as hopefully everyone has seen in this year, this is so exciting, right? All the technology that's happening in this space, and you should never hesitate to reach out. So we can help with that. It's the best way actually to get in touch with us would be, I mean, you can find me on LinkedIn. My name's Stefan Suppra.
We will put it in the show notes also.
Very much. And then, as I already dropped, next year we'll be at the e-commerce Berlin Expo. So we'll
19th and 20th of February.
Very nice. Yeah, exactly. We'll have a booth there, and you can catch us there. But all the channels that we have available also work. So you can go to our website to search for AWS Retail, get in touch with us there. But I would always recommend reach out directly. That makes it a very direct way, and I'm always in favor of understanding exactly what's driving everyone. So yeah, just give me a call, give me a message. Yeah.
Fantastic, Stefan. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see us at the expo.
Definitely. Looking forward to that.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the EGN Podcast. If you found our discussion insightful, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channels on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Your support helps us grow and improve our content. See you next time.